Good evening. I'd like to call the Three Rivers Board of Education meeting to order on August 24th at 6 o'clock. If we could please start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll, please.
Mrs. Snyder. Here. Dr. Stafford.
Here.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
Mr. McDonald.
Here.
Mrs. Miller.
Here.
We have one presentation this evening, and that's the technology update.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come and give you a little update on our technology we have for the 2021-2022 school year. So I'd like to introduce you to Bryson Min. He's our Director of Technology through Forward Edge, a contracted service. So he's going to kind of let us know where we are, what we've been able to purchase this year, and where we're looking in the future.
Hello everybody, as Megan said, I am the Director of Technology here from Forward Edge, and this year we have a very exciting lens into what we're going to be doing with technology, especially after rebounding from last year where the extent of our technology was almost just operating on a deficit of Chromebooks with students as we had them hybrid here and at home. But now that we finally have everyone back in the district, we've pushed through some wonderful changes. So the first things I want to highlight are the things we're bringing to the classroom, the things that are going to directly impact the students. The first being that all of our new Chromebooks have arrived. So we've put over 1,000 Chromebooks back into the district for students, so they're no longer using aging devices. The devices are capable of testing, they're faster, they're touch capable, much more interactive for them. In line with that, we can now fully say that we are a one-to-one K-12 district, which is very exciting as we kind of push the Chrome OS environment as our digital learning platform for the students at Three Rivers. On that note, we also are expanding the Chrome OS environment with Chrome boxes, which will be coming with the ViewSonic interactive boards that I'm going to introduce next. But it's just one more tool to allow the teachers and the students to use a similar platform, and again, just further engage learning through that. As I mentioned, the ViewSonics, they'll be replacing and modernizing the current AV systems we have in the classrooms. Right now we have kind of the classic projector onto a whiteboard, but what the interactive display will bring is a 75-inch completely touch-enabled digital display, allowing for an infinite whiteboard, tons of widgets and applications that will allow teachers to really bring more interactivity to the classroom without the physical boundaries of a whiteboard. In terms of more specialized equipment, we are replacing the aging devices used by our middle school and high school art students in their digital design with some new Dell Precision 7760s. These are absolute powerhouses that will keep up with the modern demands of current photo editing software and other digital software, allowing them to, both now and in the future, better seize the opportunities of their online art programs. Now, of course, in a school, while students are the priority, we have all of our wonderful staff that have to support them. And this year, we are upgrading our secretaries and nurses as well. Currently, they're using some aging desktop and laptop combinations, but we're moving them to a more centralized laptop workstation to allow them the flexibility to take it on the go while providing them the power of a traditional laptop while at their desks. So they're better suited to do their jobs without running into things like battery issues or Wi-Fi connectivity on the regular. Kind of looking at the district as a whole, we have switched our internet service providers and we are joining the SPOCA consortium. Two big things that we have with joining them. The first is increased bandwidth. So for very similar costs to what we were expecting or experiencing with our previous ISP, we have now tripled the bandwidth that we get with SWOCA, meaning less latency, less disruptions. It's definitely less of a problem during testing times, which was always a pain point in years prior. So we're very excited about that. And then we are improving the online safety of the students here at the district. Through SWOCA, we are provided a platform called Securely, which allows us for a more robust online filtering solution to better protect what our students can access, as well as monitor for things such as dangerous behavior or grief. So we're very excited to use these different features to better support the students here. And then the last thing I want to end with is that technology, along with communications, is partnering together to bring live streaming to Three Rivers. So we have plans and are in the works to get set up with a computer, some setups, and some software that will allow us to better broadcast all of the achievements of the students in this district past using a phone on a tripod and microphones that way. So really quick lens into what technology has to offer here, but I'm very excited for it. It's a big change from what we saw last year with technology, and I can't wait to see what the rest of the year brings for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bryson. All right, we'll go ahead and move into the superintendent's report with Dr. Earl.
I'd like to thank Bryson and Megan Ribbett as well for the work that they've done in getting the technology into our hands. It's exciting to know that we're a one-to-one district. Glad to know that we don't have 600 Chromebooks on a ship somewhere in the middle of the ocean like we did a year ago. And really excited about the rollout for the ViewSonics. I think that will be a really powerful teaching and learning tool. And we have over 100, from my understanding, we've ordered, and we'll get into the classroom. So thank you. And I would be remiss too, not to thank you for all the work you did this summer with our summer learning program, because technology is very much a part of the program here this summer. So thank you very much. Superintendent's report, and under personnel, I'd like to block A through F. Under personnel, letter A, recommend a one-year contract for Gail Montague as administrative assistant for human resources beginning September 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 for a contract of 137 days. Item B, up to 10 additional hours for the following individuals to fill in as a substitute bus aide to support special needs students on mornings and afternoon routes as listed. Item C is accept the resignation of Gerald Lanter as bus driver on August 9th, included in the board packet. Item D is non-athletic supplemental contracts for the following individuals for the 21-22 school year. Under operational, item E is transportation staff handbook that has been vetted by our attorneys, and we are ready to roll that out. I think it'll be very helpful with our transportation department and working with our bus drivers in that department. Item F is new and revised board policies as discussed on August 10th, 2021 at the meeting that evening, included in your board packets. And there were quite a few, and if you recall, several of them were simply some changes in legal reference. They're all vetted through the Ohio School Boards Association, and I didn't know if you had any questions about any of those policies.
Policy AC, the non-discrimination policy, I believe I was reading in it that we had to actually also appoint an officer.
Yes.
And it said to do that at the time you adopt the policy.
Okay. I know that we have Mrs. Ribbett as our compliant officer, and I think you were approved previously, but with this revision, maybe we need to make sure that we add her to it. It's based on Title IX, I think, the change in this policy.
Okay. That was my only question.
Any other questions?
If there aren't any more questions, I'll make a motion to approve items A through F as presented.
I'll second.
Roll, please.
Who's second? I'm sorry. Dr. Stafford,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes.
Okay, do we have any hearing in the public? Old business? I have an item, I don't know if it falls under old or new, I guess it's a little bit of both. I do think, and this is more just a note for us to be thinking about as we move forward. I know that we're currently requiring, this has been brought up, I know we're currently requiring masks on buses due to the federal mandate, and that is set to expire on the 17th? No, it's extended.
It was extended to January.
So, I don't know if, as a board, we have any ability to talk about that moving forward or what. So I'm just putting that as a note that maybe that needs to be a discussion point that we have as we move into it. I mean, we're not requiring them, but they're optional within school, and then we require them on a bus. So I just think it's worth the conversation to have so we know where, if any, we can potentially take a stance on that if we need to.
I do know it's a federal mandate, and I know Mr. McDonald has done some research as well. And I'm stating this, not an endorsement of the mandate, but knowing that federal mandates supersede the state of Ohio law. And I have vetted it with our attorney, and the recommendation at this point in time is to follow the mandate. And you're right, it has been extended to January 18th.
What are the levels like on the current busing service? Have we maintained a certain number of students? Has it dipped? Where are we sitting there, and do we expect a change when that happens?
I know that in terms of the routes, they're very similar to last year. Now, the actual participation and the number of students on the bus, I would imagine is lower, but I don't have that number in front of me.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Stephanie, just really quick to go through the law that applies to the bus situation. I was doing some research, and under Title 42, United States Code 264, there's a statement that the HHS Secretary has the authority to make and enforce such regulations as in his judgment are necessary to prevent the introduction, transmission, or spread of communicable disease. And then the Secretary can create regulations under that. Under Title 42's Code of Federal Regulations 7.1 and 7.2, they define a conveyance as a road vehicle, and that's what this order applies to, and it allows the CDC director to provide orders to enforce the law. So that's why the order is enforceable as pursuant to a law. And I know that there were a lot of comments out there that the CDC order is not law, and that is technically true, that if it's done pursuant to a law, it has the effect of a law. So that's why we don't have any discretion as a board to do that. The order is extremely broad. It applies to the military, it applies to everything but a personal conveyance, like your own car is about the only thing that it doesn't apply to. So because of that, we don't have any discretion to make any changes to that. It's not an answer I'm happy with, but that's the answer that appears to be where we're at.
Okay. Have we gotten any feedback from parents regarding issues with students having bus? I mean, I know eventually it'll get cooler, so it's not going to be 100 forever. But I mean, it is extremely hot. I'm just curious if we've gotten any feedback from parents that have had students that have struggled since they have to wear a mask on the bus. And I know it's hot. My kids are super sweaty when they get off the bus. So, and athletes, I mean, right? We're requiring our athletes to wear it to and from. So I'm just curious.
I have not officially received any specific calls or comments about it from parents. I know that we are providing masks for some individuals when they get on the bus who have forgotten them or do not have them. But we are not in the business of being mask police. So, and I'm not saying this publicly like, okay, nobody should wear masks. You really should based on the mandate. The other part to that, remember, is if you're not wearing a mask, and let's say you're in the back of the bus, and the person next to you tests positive, we have cameras on the bus when we do contact tracing. You would be quarantined based on the guidelines and the Ohio Revised Code that we have to follow on quarantines. So.
And with that, we haven't gotten any feedback from bus drivers in terms of like this being a major issue, like they're constantly, I mean, bus drivers have enough to worry about versus constantly looking behind them to make sure students are wearing masks. I'm assuming that there's not a lot of bus driver issues that are, I just want to make sure that we're operating safely while they're in the bus.
In terms of power struggle or mask police, no. I know that some of our drivers have expressed concern about them having to wear a mask because, to your point, it's very hot, especially right now. But the mandate is wear a mask, so we don't have a lot of wiggle room on that at this point in time.
Okay, all right. Okay. Thanks for entertaining the conversation. All right, any other old business? New business?
I do have a couple of things. First of all, I just want to again shout out to our Special Services Department. We received our 1920 ODE rating for our special student services or special education rating, and we met all of the indicators, so that we don't take for granted. There's a lot of work that goes into those reports. And we also received for the 21-22 school year an Innovative Strategies grant from ODE for $44,783. And again, those you have to apply for, you have to do the work to get the grant application in. So really happy that Jones did them and Megan Rivet provided that information, got that application in. I want to add too, we continue to monitor the situation with COVID. I wish we didn't. I know that based on conversations we've had this morning, we've had one student test positive in the district so far. We have another one that we're watching. We have 10 individuals quarantined, and in some cases, it's not us doing the contact tracing. It's parents were tested positive at home, notified us, and are keeping their children home. We know that it's starting to impact some of our school activities. For example, we were informed that the football team, Bethel Tate, will be canceling due to COVID. We don't play them this Friday, the following Friday. So if you watch the news, you'll see that some of the teams are getting hit with COVID. We're knocking on wood right now. But we're carefully monitoring the surge. A lot of people have asked about quarantine, and do we have to do it? And what are the parameters that we follow when we're notified of a positive case? And we put that information on the website. It is, and I've checked into this again with our attorneys at the Hamilton County Department of Health, and also in our network within area school superintendents. It's Ohio Revised Code 3701.13, if you're interested in looking up the law. And it was actually revised in June. But it basically says that public entities like a public school, we are required to not only report, but we are required to isolate or quarantine individuals who are within 3 feet of a person who tests positive for an accumulation of 15 minutes over a 2-day span. And the exemption to that would be if they're wearing a mask or they've been vaccinated. So we're pretty confident in our classrooms, and if you recall last year it was 6 feet. So we're pretty confident in our classrooms that we can social distance, do the 3 foot, 37 inches right apart for the majority of the time. We are a little concerned at lunch because masks are off, if they're wearing masks, but also just because of the logistics of our facility. we're within that 3-foot range. And then there's always extracurricular activities we have to work through. It is not a perfect science. I'm the first one to tell you that. If you stop and think about 3 feet, 15 minutes, mask, unmask, accumulation, it is sometimes makes us work a little bit to figure out if and when a student would get quarantined. Questions on that?
If a student is wearing a mask or not, how do we determine that?
Well, we have to defer to the teacher, right? And if it's a classroom setting, for example, a study hall, we have a couple of study halls at the high school that are a little bit closer in proximity, so we would have to defer to the teacher. At lunch, we can check the cameras if we need to. On the bus, we can check the cameras if we need to. We don't look forward to having to do that. We all kind of cringe. I know our health clinic, they're working really hard on those situations when they come in.
And just to be clear, if a parent doesn't want their child to quarantine and decides to send their kid here anyway, we can't let them in the building. That's our position our attorney has stated.
That is true at this point in time.
Any other new business?
I did have a comment, and this is just something to think about in the future. I know that the athletic events we've been having, people pay for their tickets online, and I know there's a fee. I was wondering in the future whether we could design the system so that you could buy multiple weeks tickets so that you would only incur the fee one time. I know that the fee is almost like 23% of the price of some of the tickets. So if we could find a way to allow people to purchase multiple weeks or bulk tickets at one time so they only incur that fee once, I think that would be really meaningful to a lot of people.
I'll talk to Mr. Hurgis about it.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, he's probably nervous about doing that. Case in point,
Some good things.
I just bought the Bethel tape ticket, right?
That's right. Yeah, we have to find a way to refund future tickets.
Scalp the Bethel tape ticket right now.
Thank you.
We do have a need for executive session. Executive session for specific matters required to be kept confidential by state law, rules, or state statute. The two items are the employment of public personnel and the discussion of collective bargaining negotiations.
I'll make a motion to do an executive session for items A and B.
I'll second.
Roll, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Dr. Stafford?
Yes.